Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. You're doing the robot, but you're having a stroke. You're having a medical emergency while you're doing the robot.
Right.
While dressed like a Duracell commercial. This makes sense to like 30% of people who are listening.
Oh yeah, I'm going to cut in the middle of this too, so it won't make any sense. Hi everybody.
Hello everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched True Detective Season 4, Night Country.
Night Country.
It's like Bat Country.
Yeah.
But you can stop there because you're frozen to death.
What happened in the last case you worked with Navarro?
That was good. Until it wasn't. Never too late.
Yep, not even the blazing licks of an Avenged Sevenfold song could free you from that ice.
Mm-hmm. All right, first things first, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
The town sounds like penis. Sounds like penis. The town's name, Enos.
Enos?
Penis.
Ennis?
Yeah. I'll call it Enos because that makes it more fun.
Yeah.
We've gotten that out of the way. So this is the first season of True Detective without the original creator.
Without Nick Lots of Pizzas.
Yeah, who appears to be,
I think is how you say his name.
Pizzolatto. He appears to be some sort of maniac. If the internet is any indication,
he's been kind of melting down on social media over season 4. I don't know why. I guess
I have a theory.
Maybe he got forced out of the show and is not happy about it.
I looked into it. He signed a deal with Fox. And HBO was like, well, we kind of want to keep going with True Detective. And I think they sort of moved on. They didn't wait for him. And so, like, I can see how that would piss you off to be like, I made the show. And they're like, yeah, we can make it without you. And then I think on top of that, he's like a weird, bitter little man about it. And he is not taking it well. And he is taking it out on Issa Lopez and this season
stars and creators of season 4. He's been a real Bret Easton Ellis about it.
He really is. Like he's kind of making me like I want to go back and watch the other seasons, and he's kind of turning me off a little bit. Where I'm like, okay, so this guy kind of sucks, huh?
Marina and I are going back through season 1 because it connects in a lot of ways to season 4.
It does,
which I'm sure we'll probably mention.
Yeah.
But like I'm flagging things a little, like I'm clocking stuff a little more sharply than I was in previous viewings, knowing this, like after having seen some of his meltdown.
It actually, you mentioned Ellis. It reminds me of American Psycho in that was a book where the guy didn't quite understand what he was making. It seems like that was adapted by a woman who understood it way more. It seems like, and then Ellis was like, I hate that. He like trashed that movie and said like women can't make this movie.
And yet
stuff.
That adaptation is the only reason anyone still gives a shit who he is.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not to take away from the quality of the first season of True Detective. It is a very good season, but I do have this suspicion of like, I wonder how much I don't know. He's throwing up some red flags right now. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and clocking some of the more misogynistic parts of season 1. It's like,
yeah,
okay,
right.
I liked season 3 a lot though.
I've gone on record and I'll say it again. I like all of the 3 seasons that he did. I like season 2. I do notice now, like, yeah, there's not much for women in those seasons, are there? Mm-mm. Like they didn't really
literally benches the women at the end of like he puts Rachel McAdams on the bench for like no real reason at the end of season 2.
Their wives and their corpses mainly in the series. Yeah, and so it now you can really feel that.
Like
in
season 1, Alexandra Daddario has 2 scenes and she's fully naked in one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so like, okay.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah.
I love the vibes of it. We've talked about it. I don't know. Have we covered True Detective?
I don't think we have. No, I don't, because we weren't doing the show when the first 2 seasons came out, and then I don't think we covered season 3.
We did cover Tigers Are Not Afraid, which is what Issa Lopez's first. I don't want to say first. I don't know, the movie that put her on the map. That was very, very good.
Her breakout movie. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What did you think of season 4 of True Detective Night Country?
I liked it. I liked what it has in common with Tigers Are Not Afraid. The ghosts.
Yes. I actually... This is unfair because I haven't watched the other seasons, but I like this tone a little better than the other seasons. I like that she brings it right to the edge of the supernatural, but ultimately... It's not, the answer isn't supernatural. You know what I mean? Like that would have been a cop out.
There's some ambiguity. Like she still leaves the ambiguity so that there is room for a ghost.
Oh, for sure. But like you can solve the murder without a ghost.
Yeah, you can solve the mechanism of the. It's like Sleepy Hollow. Well, not like Sleepy Hollow because that movie is not ambiguous, but like. Yeah, they solve basically who is responsible for the murder. Yeah.
Yeah, you could compare. I mean, one of the inspirations was apparently The Shining, and that's a really good one where it's like the ghosts aren't like killing anybody. But
right, it's Jack, but like it wouldn't. Yeah, it's right. It's ambiguous. Is it the hotel or is it Jack?
Yeah, and while I do have some critiques of this season, they're not really about the quality of it. Like my biggest critique. Come on, 6 episodes.
That was my main one. Is my main critique of this season is every other season's been 8. This one was 6, which it doesn't need to be 8 just for the sake of being 8. But it did feel abrupt when it ended. It felt like, I mean, a lot of the seasons, the previous 3 seasons left threads open. That's just that was part of the nature of the vibe of it. Of like sort of you're only ever going to solve a piece of the crime.
Right.
So like it felt like it left a lot more threads loose, and just like a lot of storylines kind of got cut off abruptly that I'll talk about a little bit more later. But there's like only one scene that I thought was genuinely bad, and it was the truncating of one character's storyline.
Okay, yeah.
It was Peter Pryor's storyline, the young cop, which we'll talk about in a second.
Well, here's the thing. I get. So I totally get this where it's like don't overly stretch something out for the sake of it.
Right.
But there was more to explore.
There was more to explore with all the main characters. Yeah. Right.
And it frustrates me because I really liked the vibe in the world. I liked being in it. I personally, so this went around recently. There was like some study about how all the top streaming shows are from like 20 years ago. And everybody, like, there was an article about that, and everybody tweeted the same thing, which was, that's because they have, like, more than 6 episodes a season. Mm-hmm. Like, I watch Star Trek DS9 because I can put that on.
Because they're 22 episode seasons.
Exactly. And now it's getting to the point where I'm like, I don't think you can call this a fucking season. Like, it's getting embarrassing, where it's like, call it, like, a mini series or so, like, but... Like, if anything, I want True Detective to add more. Yeah. Like, when I realized it was only 6, I was like, wasn't the originals 8? Or, sorry, 10? And then I saw there were 8, and I'm like, they weren't even 10? Like, I would take 20 episodes, honestly, of this world, of this vibe, even if there was a lot of bottle episodes, even if there was a lot of, like, let's spend a time with this character.
There are bottle episodes in season 1, anyway.
Yes.
There's, like, a whole digression when Rust goes undercover in a motorcycle gang.
Right, and that was great.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. I get it where it's like shows are getting tired of doing that tap dancing thing. And, of course, they don't want to pay writers.
It's a budget thing,
Yeah. But, like, that's some of the best
and
TV.
Residuals, yeah.
Yeah, some of the best TV was them saying, like, well, we got to stretch this out. And that's the point of a TV show, is to, like, really dig into a world. And I honestly think True Detective could do that. They could do fucking 20 episodes in Night Country. Mm-hmm. And so that just kind of, I don't know, that really bothers me because that's all to say I really, really enjoyed this show. I really liked existing in it, and it made me sad that it was so short. I hope they give her more episodes next season, maybe because they just renewed it and she is coming back.
Yes, I did see that before we signed on. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I don't know. I maybe this was them not having faith in
It's
her.
probably. I mean, it had been a couple of years. They were switching creators. Yeah, I could see that being like, and also it's pretty ambitious.
Yeah.
Because it's all night.
Yeah, and they shot it in Alaska and Iceland. Yeah, the budget was actually, I looked it up, it was less than season 3 though. It was 60 million. Season 3 was 70.
That makes sense. And
less episodes.
Yeah, I'm sure that was probably it. Let's do 6 and see if people still want this.
Right, and like we really want it, especially a procedural. Like this could be a 20 episode seasons where it's like the X-Files with different partners every time. You know what I mean?
Exactly. With a new cast of characters each season.
I think that's what it is this is the closest to feeling like I was watching the X-Files again, in a weird way. All of the seasons, honestly, because they clearly are inspired by Mulder and Scully and that weirdness and the Twin Peaks of it all.
And they always brush up against the supernatural. Season 4 was the most explicit because there's this thing.
We're going to spoil the shit out of it.
We are,
Everybody knows this.
but we're not going to go through the plot or anything. We're just going to, but we are going to spoil the shit out of it.
Yeah.
There's this thing about the town where like a couple of characters are seeing ghosts, and like right from jump you're seeing ghosts.
Harry Potter's aunt.
Aunt,
is seeing apparently
Fiona,
Russ
Shaw.
Cole's. Yeah, that's Matthew McConaughey's dad. Apparently.
Yeah.
Travis Cole is the person she's seeing, and it's implied that he's related to Matthew McConaughey's character.
He is, because if you remember, he says his dad took him up to live in Alaska for several years.
Got it.
And he talks about it being night all the time.
Right. Did she kill him? It feels like she killed him, too.
It seems like she did.
Harry Potter's aunt killed him.
May have killed Rust's dad, but... and there's also the spiral symbol that connects to the first season.
The town is like Derry, in a way, like in Stephen King's It.
It
like
is,
it's that idea.
Yeah. There's a mine there, so there's this idea of like the tunnels underneath and what's being hidden underneath the ice, and it's all what this scientific research station that's connected to the mine. They're all doing this shady stuff underground, and it's very X-Files. Yeah, there's a lot of references to the Thing in it.
Yes, there's literal shots that are just straight out of the Thing.
They find it's like 6 dead bodies. It's really like 6 murders.
Yes.
It's a multiple murder, but they're all frozen together. They find them frozen together in various mute poses of terror, and it just looks like the Thing monster.
It does.
I think they do the same shot. Yes, when the one guy screams.
That was like the beginning of an episode. He was like, okay, this was like the second episode, and it was like, okay, this is gonna be great. Like this show's gonna be
gnarly,
great.
Yeah.
It's also like she describes the town of Penis as like, she says like the world is coming unraveled, and this is like where the seams are. This is where the terror is, basically, is how they explain it, right? Or she says, like, the universe is dying, and this is where it's starting to unravel in this town. And I liked that idea, because that felt very Stephen King. It also felt very season 1, True Detective, felt very Lovecraftian. This idea of, like, this tucked-away town is just, this is where the spiritual world and the living world are colliding in a very messy way. So it was like a really cool premise for this town in general. And making it around this town was really cool. Like, I feel like the other seasons didn't do that. The town wasn't like a personality.
No, and they tended to cover huge areas in the first 3 seasons.
Yeah.
It isn't just localized to the area where the crime took place. They all expand much further beyond that for the most part. But like this one really does just stay in this one town.
Right, which is I'm actually surprised the other ones didn't do that when you think about it. Like this like small town sheriff idea for True Detective makes a lot of sense. And this idea that everybody kind of knows each other, and then it makes it. They also use the fact that like they're in a place where there's basically no laws. Like it's the closest to Wild West in America we have, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like they can they can and they do just kill people, and they just
I think
they either
one of
cover it
them-
up or they literally just disappear the fucking body.
Right, one character, I think it's Fiona Shaw, Harry Potter's aunt, says people just disappear in Ennis. You know,
Yeah. This fucking cast. John Hawkes doing the most John Hawkes.
man.
Being super John Hawkes. We got Jodie Foster.
Yeah.
Who is fucking killing. I'm so. I thought when I heard she was in this, I thought it was going to be like Clarice stunt
Right,
casting.
it sort of is.
Sort of is, but she's playing like she calls herself, like Jodie Foster called it, an Alaskan Karen, which I think is funny because I didn't actually get that vibe. She's playing an asshole who fucks her way through town, basically.
Yeah, she's playing the scumbag cop role that you've encountered in these stories before, but it's usually a man. So
Yeah.
it was fun to cast Jodie Foster as like
And then-
the shitbag fucking small town cop that just fucks everyone and nobody likes.
It's incredible. And then Callie Reese, she apparently is a boxer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's killing it
She's
too.
awesome, yeah.
It's such a strong fucking cast. And whoever the little guy cop.
The little guy, Peter Pryor.
Okay.
That's
Peter
the character's
Pryor.
name, yeah. I
He was
did
good,
not
too.
look up who the actor was.
I love how much there's like this tension of people like, don't you fuck him, Jodie Foster. Like there's that feeling of like on edge at every single moment of like, are you gonna fuck him? Are you gonna fuck this young lad? Are you gonna ruin this guy? You gonna fuck him? Fuck him rotten?
I never got that vibe, but there is the vibe of obviously he has competing loyalty because his dad is John Hawkes, who is the
Right.
deputy there. So he's either going to do what his dad says because he's his dad, or he's going to do what Jodie Foster says because she's the sheriff, she's the boss, and
Right.
it's Jodie every time, and it ends up being this huge conflict between him and John Hawkes that. After a series of calamities, like his Russian mail order bride standing him up,
That was
John
so sad.
Hawkes he got a Russian bride through the internet and expected her to
Yeah.
actually show up.
Didn't work out for
No,
him.
it didn't. It sure didn't.
I love how they made him such a lonely guy.
Yeah.
He
But
was
also so
one of those-
despicable that you couldn't
Yes.
fully feel you pity him, but you don't really like.
It does the thing where it makes you understand his character,
Yeah.
not like him, but understand why he's doing the things he does. You kind of understand everyone for the most part.
For the most part, yeah. The only
I'd say like.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, the woman who runs the mine felt very mustache twirly, but we also didn't.
we only
don't
got her
have
for like
that-
3 scenes. Yeah.
Exactly. Like she has to kind of make that count, that presence where it's like, the mine did something based on
Right.
just her performance.
They do an interesting thing though with that character because they make her husband be one of the people that Jodie Foster slept with. So it's like
Yes.
in the scenes that she is in with Jodie Foster where she's like being interrogated or questioned about the mine's connection to the death of this scientist and all the scientists at this research station freeze to death mysteriously and terrifying. That's the crime. And they're somehow connected to this mine that this lady owns, but also Jodie
and
fucked her
connected to a
husband.
prior murder.
And
Yeah,
connected
Jodie
to a
Foster,
prior murder from like a few years back. Yeah.
an activist. The idea is the mine is getting protested by indigenous groups, mainly indigenous, but
Right, because they're
locals.
poisoning the water base. So their water
there's
is
yeah.
black and brackish, and there's been a recent not outbreak,
I don't know.
string of stillbirths because of the quality of the water.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so on the side, this lab that was drilling into the ice. The show begins basically with a man like seizing in this in this research station and saying she's awake. The lights go off, and then next time we see them, they're all twisted together on the ice, and all their clothes have been perfectly sorted
And folded.
and folded. And then there's this one-eyed polar bear throughout. There's like ghost sightings. Everybody that they run into who seems to have, like, one of the scientists isn't present in the cluster of bodies, so they're looking for him because they kind of assume, well, he probably had something to do with it. We learn he had a relationship with the indigenous girl who was murdered years prior, and her tongue was cut out, and she was found stabbed like fucking 30 times.
Too many times.
And dumped. Too many times. And so, like, I don't know, did you figure it out at any point?
No, not really.
Neither did I. I want to give a shout out to my sister, who we watched it in real time, so she wasn't spoiling anything. Texted me, I think in season 2 or episode 2, and went, "Cleaning ladies did it." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "I think it's the cleaning ladies." And it turns out it kind of was. They were in on it.
They forced them
Yeah.
outside into the snow basically to see whether the vengeful spirit of Annie / whatever nature spirit is out there would decide to kill them or not.
Yes.
And that's the ambiguity we were talking about earlier, because they say that we're given questionable medical advice from a veterinarian, but he says they died before they froze to death.
Right.
And then the official story that comes back from the state forensics office is like this unbelievable. It's like it was a landslide that killed them, and it's like, no, it wasn't.
Right. They clearly took off their clothes.
Yeah, and folded them, and like.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's
I could see like exposure killed them, like, but yeah,
not flash freezing them and like they're posed.
yeah, they're all twisted.
They're posed
together.
like Vesuvius victims.
That's where it gets ambiguous because
that's where the ambiguity comes in.
I think so. What makes this a really satisfying story to me is that there was a point where I was watching with Hannah and we kept saying, like, I don't think they can wrap this up without the murderer being ghosts. Like, I kept saying because Hannah hadn't watched the previous seasons, I was like, they're always vaguely supernatural, but it won't be like flat out supernatural.
No.
And at a certain point I started getting nervous because I was like, shit, did she just make this explicitly supernatural? And what I found incredibly satisfying is that it was this very logical and perfect combination of events that ultimately made it not supernatural with some ambiguous supernatural
With some
elements.
question. Yeah.
Right. Because you ask yourself, like, okay, what does this have to do with this indigenous activist getting killed? And then you realize, like, oh, yeah, of course it's revenge. Well, like, obviously that would be revenge. Like, they killed her and then someone killed them. And it never clicked in my head because there's so much other stuff going on that it's like, what made these people go out into the ice and take off their clothes all of a sudden? Like, yeah, of course a group of people made them. Like, that
held
makes
them at gunpoint and made them
Yeah.
do it. Yeah.
And the whole time you're watching, there's this background thing of these activists versus the mines. And then the mine is tied to this lab. And it's like, oh, yeah, that it all makes complete and perfect sense. And if you're wrapped up in the story, you don't even realize how obvious it kind of felt in retrospect. Or it's like, yeah, no shit. No shit, it was them.
The previous seasons are sort of like that as well.
Yeah,
They like
for sure.
present you with like a locked room mystery. By that, I mean a mystery that seems impossible. And you get like so wrapped up in the interpersonal drama between the characters and like what's going on, and also all this other stuff. Like there's a couple of red herrings. Obviously, there always are in every season of True Detective, and also they follow these other leads that don't necessarily provide any clues, but are just like interesting backstory. Like the old German engineer who had gotten like partially blinded. Like years before, so there's like another level of ambiguity there. It's like, well, what blinded him?
Right, exactly. But there's this answer of like, it sounds fucked up, man. Like there's all sorts of shit going on.
But like when you eventually find out the answer, it's one completely logical, and when you hear it, you're like, of course. Like
it doesn't have to be supernatural.
No,
at all.
it's just you're only seeing 3 pieces of an 8-piece puzzle, so it's like, oh, it must be ghosts. But then also, even in like season 1, which seems like really kind of like the mystery seems like it really takes a while to coalesce.
Yeah,
all of the clues are in that first episode.
Right.
Like you see, you're like, oh, like it's a I'm not going to say what, I'm not going to spoil True Detective season 1, but like
Sure.
you can't figure out the whole mystery, but like you can, they put it right in front of you in the first episode, what's going on. You're like, oh, it's right there. Like,
I've never written a mystery, but I suspect it's about you create a very elaborate series of events and then you just show pieces of it, right? It's like what makes a mystery is not seeing the whole picture and
you
only
don't
seeing
have all the pieces. Yeah. So you work backwards. I've tried a few. Abe and I are working on one.
Yeah. And so,
but yeah, you work backwards from the solution, obviously, and then you just sort of kind of decide what pieces to remove and when to I don't know.
I think there's also an element of adding some stuff. Like, for example, the part where the guy's seizing and says she's awake, you immediately think like that must be fucking supernatural. Mm-hmm. What you learn is that it kind of is. He's this idea of she's awake. It's sort of referring to a little bit like in this case, he's kind of referring to the woman he was in love with who was killed, but also like this overall spirit. And he says like he's been having visions of her up until that point, right? Mm-hmm. So like what's happening is he might just have a fucking brain tumor, but we don't know. And so like what I like about this is that they also, the spiritual stuff doesn't get like shelved at the end either. Like all those little supernatural elements weren't just there to distract us. Does that make sense?
They feel woven into it. They feel inextricable.
Exactly.
Like it's part of it's part of the ambiguity. Like
right.
They
like,
leave
as
enough.
You mentioned.
Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say the way they died, where you're like, yeah, the vet says they died first, and then you realize like, oh, what killed them? And we never quite answer that. They say like we sent them out to see if she wants to take them. And you could say like, oh, maybe it was the avalanche. Maybe it was...
Right. Then there's obviously he's a veterinarian and he just examined them. He didn't touch them or anything. He didn't use any tools. So you're like, well, maybe he was wrong. But like, there's also enough room in the solution that you don't discount all this, like the one-eyed polar bear or the ghosts or what Navarro is going through where she thinks her mom's ghost is calling her to basically the underworld.
Yes.
Which
what did you think of that?
It was so similar to Tigers Are Not Afraid. Like using ghosts as guilt. I mean, that's a pretty classic way to use ghosts in a story. That's the way she uses them in Tigers Are Not Afraid. And that's also what they seem to be in this.
Right.
He's plagued by the one guy, Clark, who is even the name of one of the dudes from the thing.
I noticed. Yeah. References.
They did need to watch Clark. It turns out
you got to watch Clark.
Watch Clark.
She did such a good job with references because I would say that it wasn't like slathered on. It was vibes.
It was a light touch.
And like,
it was a light touch.
It was a light touch.
The Thing stuff was the loudest, but even then it wasn't like super loud.
And it could be loud because the answer isn't aliens. You know what I mean? Like she wasn't copying.
No, but there was a hint of it. Like remember, they're studying these microorganisms that are supposed to perpetuate life, and you're like, oh shit, are they bringing people back to life?
Yeah.
And then when you see the video of Annie's murder, you see this weird skeleton behind her. It turns out it's just a whale skeleton. But like you see, it's like, is that a fucking dragon or a monster? What did they find in the ice? Yeah. And of course they found some microorganisms, and I don't know.
They found some junk. They found some junk down there.
Some junk that they think is going to help them cure cancer, so they're willfully poisoning the town.
Yeah. Yeah, that's their role.
That's the solution. But yeah, I liked that. Like I liked that. I wish they would have developed the thread a bit more. But
I think they needed.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just think they needed to. I think there needed to be a little more work done with Navarro. This was another thing I was talking to my sister about, which is like. It's implied like her sister kills herself by walking in the ice, and then she essentially does the same thing. And it was like, what are they saying about suicide? And it was honestly unclear. And then it's sort of ambiguous at the end of what happened to her. Mm-hmm. You know, like did she simply leave? You know, or is she still around, or is it her spirit, or like what is it? And it felt again like they needed more episodes to kind of develop it a little more, because it wasn't bad or anything. It just felt a little muddled to me. Maybe I missed a bit or something.
No, it is a little confusing. It's unclear whether she's dead or just disappeared. It's
I know
also
that's-
unclear why she disappeared. I mean, it's not really
Right. I know
It's
that's
not-
supposed to be ambiguous.
Yeah.
But I feel like I needed to know the rules of what was happening a little more. I don't know. It's more like the message felt muddled to me at the end, where I was like, I don't know why she wanted that. Ultimately,
it's because it's guilt. It's all from her guilt.
right.
Like she feels guilty about. She's actually the clearest character to me. Like she feels guilty because she's a police officer, but she's indigenous, so she has to be part of the system that's like oppressing her people. She feels guilty about her mom and her sister's mental struggles, and that's weighing on her. And I think that's the aspect of the vision. She's like, she talks to somebody at some point. I think it's her sister. But it might be one of the midwives that says the thing about not knowing which kind of ghost. Like some of them want to give you a message, some of them just don't know they're dead, and some of them want to take you with them.
yeah.
So
that
she's
was great.
thinking, yeah. So it's a good thing
She
in the
was
back of
talking
my mind all the
to
time.
Harry Potter's mom. I
Oh,
think.
Fiona Shaw,
or stepmom or stepmom,
aunt,
whatever.
aunt.
Fiona Shaw.
Yeah. So that I think that's all that was, is her struggling to process and make peace with her guilt over what has happened to her family, over what she's decided to do with her life. And that's like why she's so obsessed with solving Annie's murder, because she wasn't Annie's friend or anything. They didn't know each other. It's just this was an indigenous woman who was a pillar of the community and standing up against this mine, was brutally murdered, and it's just been sitting unsolved for the past 7 years or however long it's been. So she feels guilt over that. So like, yeah, I think it's just all different expressions of the guilt she's trying to process.
Yeah, there's this general idea there where, and you get it a little bit with Jodie Foster too, which is like they don't quite like that they're cops at times because they have to uphold a system that is clearly fucked up. Like basically they have to protect the mind at times.
Yep.
And Jodie Foster's, which we learn, it's very implied. They don't explicitly say it, but adopted daughter from a person that they super killed together. That is what happened, right? That was my vibe, where they do the flashback where they shoot the guy and you hear a baby cry.
Oh, that can't be her.
Is it not?
No, it's too young.
Too young?
She's too old to have been that baby. This was her stepdaughter from her previous marriage.
Right, from her previous marriage. I remember. Sorry, that stuck out because I was like, I was trying to do the math in my head, and I was like,
It's only been like 6 or 7 years since spoilers. They murder a guy together.
they murder a guy, which is actually really important for the resolution. Like it does a few things. One, this is what we love with True Detective, right? Is the detectives are always a little dirty or have some sort of fucking history together. This is like the first one that didn't feel like it skipped around a timeline as much.
Not really. It went back and forth between their work on that Annie's murder initially 7 years ago and then contemporary, but it doesn't really flash back that much. You're right.
But it reflects their frustration, which is that this guy kept beating his girlfriend, and because they're cops, all they could do is sort of show up and go like, like do the things. If the girlfriend doesn't like say it, they have to sort of just leave. He always has an excuse. And then one day they showed up and he had shot her. And they keep saying he shot himself after that. But we all kind of know from the start, like, no, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
And so it's just a matter of like which one of them did it. And it was Navarro, but it really could have been either of them. Even Jodie Foster says it, like, I was about to do it.
Yeah.
Had you not done it?
As the series goes on, though, it becomes more clear that it was Navarro, because she's the one that has the anger and the impulse control. That, like, she goes and starts a fight with those 4 guys and ends up getting beat real bad.
Yes.
In uniform, she goes and starts a fight with just a couple of random guys because she's so upset and enraged that she's just found out her sister has killed herself. So she's like, I'm going to go fight and get my ass kicked. Because that's what I want to do right now.
Yeah, that was like pure uncut True Detective.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was like, hell yeah.
I want to go get my ass kicked
as
tonight.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's such a trope of the grizzled cop. is
Right.
something goes wrong, they get dealt a horrible blow, and they go out and deliberately get their asses kicked.
Yeah. But there's this running theme of the idea of like as cops, they can't actually get justice the way they want.
No, their hands
right?
are tied by all these political strings, and also by the mess they created themselves by working outside the system. That's ultimately what it comes down to. Is
Right.
Christopher Eccleston, Doctor Who, plays her police captain that's sort of like in cahoots with the mine people we learn, and he basically tells her that, look, I know you killed that guy. I know you guys killed that guy. So you either play ball or I will end your careers and send you to prison for killing this guy.
And again, they just closed the case. They're like, it was this avalanche.
Yep.
Which they managed to turn back around at the end, which is great.
Yeah.
Where they're like, where they figure out who actually killed them, and they're like, it was the avalanche, because that's what this is leading up to, is the reveal that these indigenous women and the cleaning ladies and stuff killed these guys as a revenge murder, and it sort of represents that exact thing that they did, which is shooting this fucking guy who shot his girlfriend.
Right, the system won't allow us to get justice, so we have to get outside the system.
Exactly. And so when they learn it, it's this combination of all the women walking in the room, and it's the realization that it's the two of them, and they're like, well, if we don't accept this, they're never going to find us.
It's very similar to the scene in Training Day when Ethan Hawke realizes that Denzel has left him at Cliff Curtis's house.
Yeah. Very much. And it's like they're at a point where they're like, no problems at all. No problems at all.
We just came down here to tell you guys that an avalanche killed those men. We thought you'd like
exactly.
to know. But it is cool. You're right.
Please don't kill us and bury us in the ice.
They get to use the lie, the tool of oppression, the cover up, what the system was going to use. They get to use it against that. Yeah,
to
for a change.
Help these women just get away with the fact that they killed these
like
fuckers.
6 men.
Yeah, who it turned out all had a hand in killing this woman. That's the thing.
It's very Murder on the Orient Express. What happens is Annie breaks in there because she's trying to find some shit, and finds out that the research station, the scientists, like we said earlier, have been falsifying the mine's emissions numbers because it's producing some great. It's letting them get through the ice more easily and
melting the ice. Yeah,
harvest this microbacteria, this microorganism that's giving them all these possible breakthroughs, going to help them cure cancer. They say, so they're willfully poisoning the town, causing all these stillbirths. Just horrible violence they're inflicting on these people for the sake of the greater good. I'm doing air quotes, listeners, but like it's real mad scientist shit. Like,
it is. And then she ruins the research.
She smashes it all. Yeah.
Basically, the reason she was stabbed so much is it's because multiple people stabbed her.
Right.
And then
because
she
they were
refused
angry
to
at her.
Too.
Yeah, she would not die. So they were all mad at her for smashing their work. So it's like so many eggheads stabbing her. And then the reveal that she was actually still alive and Clark smothered her.
Yes, because at first he tries to act. It's this idea where he's like, I loved her. I'm innocent. I didn't do anything.
Right, they were a couple.
He doesn't even tell them that he smothered her at the end.
No, he doesn't.
The reason he survived is because he went down an escape hatch, by the way. That's the only reason he survived, is they didn't get to him. And of course, his fate is that Navarro has him go out into the snow. Or he wants to.
Or does she?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
All that happens is Jodie Foster wakes up,
finds
Navarro's
him.
Gone, she goes outside, Navarro's standing there, and Clark is flash frozen in the ice the same way that the other guys were.
So he got
Navarro
his finally.
can't explain what happened.
Right, but not before he gets to film the confession, which of course takes down the mine at the end, which is nice. That actually matters. Like the mine gets theirs
they get closed,
as much as they can.
It gets
which is
closed
that they're
down.
closed. No one gets arrested, which is what should happen. But
I wish they had, because they make this statement earlier, which is would have been a great thing to explore, which is that part of the reason why it's so difficult to bring this mine to heal is because it employs over half the town.
Yes.
So if they get rid of it, I assume including indigenous people that live there. So it's like there's the beginning of a conflict where some of the people are like, well, it's horrible. They're poisoning the environment and we got the shitty water, but like we will not survive if the mind goes away.
It continues this idea, right? Of, our lab found this life-saving stuff.
You're right.
It's about throwing these women under the bus for the quote-unquote greater good. And you're right, is they could have spent more time on that idea.
Right. Because it
would
does,
have been good.
It does align. Yeah, man. It's even the same with the way that Jodie Foster and Navarro are treating their jobs, their work as police officers. So like, well, I got to do the stuff that I don't like because that's just the system and that's just the way it is. You got to change things from the inside. And it's like, no, it's completely broken. You will not get justice this way.
It's the Snowpiercer moral, which is if the system is in any way exploiting the innocent, burn the system down.
The system must be destroyed. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what the conditions are. It doesn't matter
if it's doing some good stuff too.
Yeah.
If it is exploiting the innocent, it is bad.
Right. If the only way this thing can run is by exploiting and murdering innocent people, then it doesn't work. The system doesn't work then.
It looks like we don't have a mine anymore, guys. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly.
It's a huge bummer, I know, but maybe we can get a car dealership out here.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe we can get a company in here that'll fucking do good things.
They are at the edge of the earth, though, man. They're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to victim blame, but it's all kind of their fault for existing there. Like they shouldn't be there, right? We shouldn't be there. We shouldn't
in Alaska?
Be there. There's bears. Yeah, it's give the animals something, and give them fucking Alaska. That's theirs. Give it to the seals.
They've got most of the ocean. The animals do.
Yeah. Yeah, I just, it's like, what are we doing? I know what we're doing. We're drilling for oil, but mainly come on. Do we really need all that fucking space up there? Just give it to the Canadians. They'll figure something out. They love it. They love the cold. Right?
I think so. That's why they all moved up there.
Exactly.
Listen, what are we talking about?
I don't know. My point is that ultimately I'm there was many parts where I'm like, yeah, well, you are in Alaska. It sucks. It sucks. Cookies cost fucking $20 or whatever.
Yeah. The import prices are in ludicrous because you can't get anything out there.
Yeah. I think it's funny because these towns are I was thinking about what it must be like to live in this area because they probably shot, like you said, they shot in Alaska. So it was probably some real Alaska town. And they do the thing where every time they're on the road, it's deserted, but then they'll go to they'll drive to the mine where there's a giant protest, and it's surely they have a highway. I'm sure they probably did that thing where they found a town and they made it seem like it was way they probably have a fucking Walmart, you know what I mean, where it's
we just see the one main street that has 6 buildings, but
we love doing this.
There is a shot or two, there's probably more than one, of the whole town, and it's way bigger than it seems.
Right, where it's
it's still a small town in the middle of nowhere, but it's more than the 6 buildings that they keep showing us.
Right. I can imagine being from that town and watching this season being like, hey, fuck you too. Fuck you. Our town is fine.
I'm sure it's not. I would not be surprised if it's a made-up town.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, I'm sure they shot in a real place. It doesn't matter. None of this matters. Shit, I was going to say something else that didn't matter because I clearly didn't matter because I fucking forgot what it was anyway. Highways, Walmart.
I guess it doesn't really matter, but I had mentioned earlier that there was one scene that I genuinely thought was bad. So the character Peter Pryor has this struggle throughout where he's trying to serve 3 different masters. He's got his dad, he's got Jodie Foster, his boss, and then he has his wife, who is working while also going to school to be a nurse and also taking care of their children.
I know what scene you're talking about. Go on.
It's the rift between them continues to grow as Jodie Foster is keeping him later and later and overnight in a lot of instances working on this case until she eventually throws him out on either Christmas or New Year's. I think it's New Year's.
Yeah.
She throws him out.
Yeah, he's sleeping in a fucking shed.
He's sleeping in a shed. Yeah. First, he's sleeping with John Hawkes. He's sleeping at his dad's house.
Yeah.
And then he moves into Jodie Foster's shed. But there's a scene basically where John Hawkes shows up to eliminate this witness. We find out that he moved the body of Annie years before because they promised him he would be sheriff if he did.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen.
He has a real sad life.
He's just a mess from top to bottom.
Yeah.
So he shows up to execute this guy. He does, and is going to shoot Jody, it looks like, but Peter comes in and shoots him. Then he has to clean up. He shoots his own dad.
Shoots his own dad. Yeah.
Then has to clean up their bodies and go take them to Fiona Shaw and dump them in the ice.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where he takes he's cleaning up the bodies, and Jody's stepdaughter shows up, and he's like, oh, I'll take you back to our house, because she's been staying with them, because Jody's daughter and her are also having a schism the whole time, because she doesn't want Jody doesn't want her down at the protests, and doesn't want her putting on the traditional paint on her face, the makeup. We're never really given a reason why. I think
it's fairly clear where she's like, these people get fucking
she
stabbed.
doesn't want, right. It's
yeah.
But at first it seems like it's just racism is what I'm saying.
Right.
And then as you watch, they never explicitly say it, but it does seem to become more clear that she's viewing it as you that's because we see all the activists are wearing the paint, so it's like
she has
you are singling yourself
makeup
out as a target, and she has
the exact same makeup as the woman who gets killed, and they show Jodie Foster looking at the pictures.
You're right.
Then,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I'd say they spell it out enough.
Okay, so it is pretty clear.
But the scene you're talking about, let me guess, is when she's like, "You go get him, Tiger."
Yep.
Essentially,
Peter drops the stepdaughter off at his house. His wife comes out in the car to talk to him, and just immediately consents what has happened. She doesn't say it explicitly. She's like, "She made you do something really bad, didn't she?" And then she just utterly forgives him. Tells him, "Go do whatever you need to do and come back home when you've done it." Even though that's been the entirety of the conflict between them,
right?
Is that she resents him for doing this.
All the other seasons,
prioritizing
marriages,
his job over her.
Right. All the other seasons have marriages that fall apart. Right.
Yeah, they all collapse.
And I thought, oh, we're doing that running theme, and I thought it was interesting to show that they survive it. The problem is they didn't have time to earn it.
Right.
And it really, I remember that season, episode 5, the moment where he kills his dad and everything is, people are confessing and they're driving off to the caves. I was like, that's when I looked up to see how many episodes there are, because I was like, this feels like the episode before the finale.
Yeah.
But we're only on number 5. What's going on?
It's got to be more.
And that is one of the things where it's like we really needed one more episode at least to smooth out some of this character shit. Including and especially that where it's like they ran out of time and they had to just make her forgive him.
Yeah. For no reason.
For no reason. It is not a great scene, and I really do think it all comes from HBO probably being like, we're not going to give you too many episodes. We're gonna, we want to wrap this up quickly.
Yeah, it could have benefited from like one more.
It really could have, or 15 more, in my opinion.
Give us a whole last season.
Yeah, I am so like Issa Lopez. Like, she's making some of my favorite shit. I'm so excited she's on this. She can't make things fast enough for me,
Yeah,
but
it took a while. It feels like it took a while. It probably took the normal amount of time.
Probably took the normal amount of time. So happy she's doing the next one. I'm so excited for what she's gonna do.
Yeah,
she talked about.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was reading an interview where she talked about how the first season was, as she put it, like hot and male and like and moist, like sweaty.
Yeah.
And she's like, and I want this to be cold and female. And it's like, oh yeah, I see what you're going for. Like the first one was like in Louisiana, and this one's like, all right, how cold can we fucking get? But it's like, I don't know. She's tapping into all the right things, right? It's like I'm picking up what she's putting down completely.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, me too. Like I really don't have. The problems I had was really just length related. Like, that's it. I just wanted more of it.
Yeah, same. And it would even out like that scene that I pointed out. It would probably have helped even that out a little bit.
Absolutely. I don't think I have anything else to say.
I'm all set, man. We're all set to go off into the night country.
Yeah, we are. Fuck yeah. Let's freeze to death.
Country!
We have a Patreon, folks. Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. GAMEFULLY. Unemployed. We watch, we have exclusive podcasts. Tom and Jeff watch Batman, Fox Mulder's a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, Spiel Boys. We watch movies every Friday night with our patrons as well. We have a whole Discord community, lots of tiers you can check out. So give it a look-see, why don't you now?
Yeah. We also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store where we have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs you can get on t-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all sorts of things. So slap your Night Country peepers onto that.
Yeah, do it. And I don't know, watch out for Jodie Foster. She'll find you. She'll fuck you and ruin your life. That's what she does. She'll plow you good. Oh yeah, that's what this show has a hilarious sex scene. I feel like that's a running thing with True Detective. It has a sex scene that's like realistic but without dignity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's just like two people plowing in a really just awkward position. And I was like, yeah, give me that. Give me that awkward fucking. I love it.
That's what they should call the next season. True Detective, awkward fucking.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's my Night Country.